Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. What week was this? Week 7, thank you. But a lot of teams have only played 6 games. I really can't believe week 7 is already in the books. That feels like that was so fast. I don't even know how that's possible.
Right.
And even for you, Mac, with all your travel, I know it's probably gone by even quicker.
It is flying by. When I saw, I think you tweeted it or posted it somewhere, and you were just like, "How is it week 7?" And I'm just like, "Please slow down, football. Please slow down.
Don't leave us so soon.
We're not ready. We just started."
I know.
But the good thing about week 7 going into week 8 is it's getting a little cooler, a little foliage really starting to appear. And we've mentioned this before, but the pumpkins at Ingles are popping, and that's what you need to go.
Oh.
But I know you're with me. I know you're with me with the fall weather.
Mac, I've been buying pumpkins since September 11th. It's like September 12th, I think, 11th. So I've already kind of replaced pumpkins. Like, this is the problem. You know, when you buy them that
That's what I
early and they
love.
sit in the
That's what I love.
sun, I know. It's just a disaster. But whenever we go into Ingles, all Jacob wants is a pumpkin. He's obsessed with pumpkins right now.
Can he
So
say
we got
it
to
yet?
get,
How does he say it? How does
yeah,
he say it?
punky.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Punky.
pretty close. That's what Amelia does
Yeah.
too. She's obsessed too. She loves them.
There's something about the babies and the pumpkins. They love the pumpkins. So you got to get them pumpkins, you know, so they can play with the pumpkin. And you can do that at Ingles. They also have everything else you could possibly need. There are going to be, let me do the math here, 5 children under 3 at my tailgate this weekend.
Oh, this is Jacob's first game.
Well, his second. He went to a game last year, but he slept the entire
Doesn't
first
count.
quarter.
He didn't know. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, he'll be
First.
awake. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot. We're gonna definitely hit up Ingles. I think we're thinking bagel bar, actually. I'm gonna get some
That
bagels
sounds
for this
good.
game for a nooner,
Okay.
and then of course get, as you know this, Mac, any other parent out here knows this, just get berries. Berries
what you need.
galore for these
That's what you need.
children. Just set them up with berries and they'll be ready to go.
That's right. I love that. You said I think so. We need a full menu by Friday. So
Yeah,
just get ready for that.
I got you.
We need the full layout, the full spread. I wish I could do this. Maybe one day. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a day where you and I are doing this podcast and I'm available on a Saturday and we have a full menu. Who knows? Maybe it's there,
Mac,
maybe it's not.
why don't announcers and broadcasters get a bye week? I feel like you
I don't
deserve a
know.
bye week. Like, there's 1 week.
Yeah.
I don't know if the huddle could survive without you. Probably not. But each of the
Sure.
broadcasters should get a bye week. The teams get a bye week.
That
And
would
then
be
you can
nice.
tell me.
Yeah. It just, it's a stress reliever, give you a good middle
Yeah.
ground. Some people would get bye week 1, like we saw this year, and you wouldn't want that. You would probably want it later in the season. I will say this though, just kind of looking at, too far ahead schedules, and we're not wishing anything away, but stuff is on the horizon. Next year, do you know who Clemson opens with?
LSU, right?
I will be having a bye week, whether I'm there for work or if not. I will be in Death Valley. I'll be there. I've already kind of laid that groundwork, so we'll see. I put in my vacation early, so it's either a bye week or I'm there as a reporter. However we want to handle it is fine with me.
That works for you, Mac. And I know you'll hit up the Ingles for everything you need in Clemson when you are inevitably there on
That'll
your
be a
bye
big
week.
game.
So
Big game.
let's get to a message from our great friends at Ingles, and then we're going to get into week 7 and what happened.
Did you know Ingles only sells USDA choice and prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Mac, let's get into what happened in week 7. Let's start with Clemson, number 10 Clemson, which remained at number 10 in the current AP poll. They beat Wake Forest 49-14. They indeed cover. Clemson is back to covering, which means Clemson is back to looking very, very good. This was just dominant. I mean, Wake did go up 7-0. That was interesting. But after that point, especially with the Wake turnovers that Clemson turned into points, you can't turn the ball over against Clemson if you're Wake Forest. Things that stood out to me, Mac, this offense absolutely humming, even without Bryant Wesco and Tyler Brown, which is very interesting. Phil Maffa just continues to be a monster. Brenning Stoll, 7 catches for 104 yards and a touchdown. Great game by him. Clemson had 0 turnovers. I'm going to throw out these turnover stats, and then I want all your thoughts, Mac. So Clemson had 0 turnovers against Wake Forest. They have 3 turnovers all season. So they have played 6 games, and they have 3 turnovers. Last year, through 6 games, Clemson had 10 turnovers. Clemson had 3 turnovers in the first game alone last season against Duke. And Clemson finished the season last year with 22 total turnovers. And again, this year, halfway through the year, they only have 3. Massive difference maker.
It really is. It's a big, massive, just everything. You're giving the ball away. You're not scoring points. They're not doing that this year. They absolutely aren't. They're taking care of that football, and it is a big difference maker. And I mean, you remember how Coach Schweeney was so adamant about it. It's like, this is just crazy. This is not who we are. It's not what we do.
Oh, I remember.
It was such a random thing and how it would happen. But yeah, looking at this game, the interesting thing for me, you mentioned Wake Forest going up 7-0. I don't know if I had it on my bingo card that Clemson would play number 1 Georgia and 2-4 Wake Forest. And in fact, Wake Forest would be the first ever team to score on Clemson in the first quarter. I did not have that on the bingo card there, but they did it. They found a way, had a couple of chunky plays. I think it was like a 30, 40-yard pass, and then a really nice touchdown. It was sweet. That was a really nice catch by Horatio Fields there, to come up with points. But overall, looking at Clemson, everything is started and finished with Cade Klubnik. I mean, how different he is. And what's actually funny about this, as I kind of bring that up and say that, there's a lot of different ways that we can go. But, I kind of said something, and then EJ was like, well, actually, don't forget about this. And then Eddie said, well, guys, what are you talking about? It's actually the receivers. And then Coach said, well, what about Phil Moffitt? And I said, oh, so you guys are telling me Clemson's really freaking good. Like that's what we're looking at, with the body types, with the personnel, with, just what they're able to do. But, kind of going back to Cade, the ownership of the offense that we continue to see, that touchdown to, Antonio Williams, I can't remember when it was early. He checked to that. He audible to that. Yet again, that's like the third one that we've kind of seen there where he sees something. He goes to his guy who's been the most dynamic player, skill player for this team outside of a quarterback, and dials it up and throws an absolute strike. And so his accuracy, the yardage, touchdowns, again, as you kind of mentioned, no turnovers. It's been really, really fun to watch. And then you add that in with Clemson back-to-back weeks rushing for over 200 yards, had 230 yards here. Phil Moffitt is just special. And it was weird early. We're kind of watching, and he wasn't – I don't know. A lot of guys were slipping too. That turf just kind of felt weird. It felt like Phil couldn't get his footing. And then once he did, he's going, 19 for 108 and a couple of touchdowns, running guys over. I mean, just the Phil Moffitt show has been bouncing dudes' helmets off of turf the last couple of weeks. It's been really fun to see that physicality and that attitude that he's running with.
He is. And I thought even early before he had really broken one, he still gets you 4 or 5 yards. Like it's very few dead plays or very few negative plays at all from Phil Moffitt. I mean, he is going to go forward and then eventually he's going to break one. Like he's proven that pretty much every game, not really Georgia, but pretty much every game, he wears people down. And he's slowly becoming one of my favorite Clemson running backs to watch. Like of all of the great ones that Clemson has had under Dabo Swinney, he's just fun to watch. And he runs, it's like, he's a powerful runner, but he's so smooth. And that is kind of a unique combination.
Really versatile.
And he's
just really versatile. I mean, his vision, his patience, and as you mentioned, his power, and yet still has breakaway speed. He's running away from guys at 230, and he's an excellent receiver. I mean, the amount of targets, the amount of how they kind of are using him. It's more like traditionally what you see from a running back. It's not like he's flexing out running receiver type routes, but it's really impressive. And I just love, what we've seen, from Garrett Riley and the play calling that we have had, other guys stepping up. It was nice to see Troy Stellato get into the end zone. Has just felt like a guy that has had really bad injury luck, had a pass earlier in the game where he was wide open, maybe scores, who knows? And Cade overthrew him a little bit, and you're just like, God, this guy just can't catch a break. But he found the end zone, which was awesome. He was the second leading receiver, had 6 catches there. So it's just it's cool. It's cool to see these guys and a group that KG, I've been hammering that there's guys here, there's guys at this receiver position. They just haven't been healthy. They haven't been on the field. Well, now they all are, and they're all ready to go. And it's been awesome to see that and awesome to see them step up.
I want to add this because I was saying this to you, that I was a little like, I don't know. I feel like the September and into October part of Clemson's schedule has been a little bit of a Debbie Downer. Like you've played
Sure.
Georgia, Florida State, nowhere near as good. Even App, like nowhere near as good. NC State, like all of these programs that you thought would give you good games have just fallen off. And then you've played these with Stanford, Wake, etc. And you have Virginia, which my Who's. We're gonna get to that. I have some words. I have some things to say about my Who's. We're gonna get there. But I'm gonna add this, Mac. November for Clemson. You have 5 games in November, by the way. That's unique. This is shaping up to be a very interesting November. So I think just kind of patience if you're a Clemson fan, seeing all these other programs kind of play bigger games and wanting to play a bigger game. At least that's what I've been feeling. In November, you have Louisville, which we'll see if they're back and ranked. We're going to talk about their win over Virginia, but still a good team at home. At Virginia Tech, I know Virginia Tech's down. They're still going to make a bowl, and it's still at Virginia Tech. I mean, that environment is going to be amazing. Pitt, at Pitt, top 20 Pitt. I mean, no one would have seen that coming. Citadel. And then you have South Carolina at home. If South Carolina could just win one of these bigger games that they're so close,
their defense is weak.
Yeah, it could be actually decently interesting. So I'm just saying, I think we're going to get there. I think November is going to be a lot more, for lack of a better term, interesting for Clemson.
Some say November to remember. And I think that's what we're going to get. And the good thing about it, this team's ascending, right? They're getting better and better. And I thought the Wake Forest game was their best, complete game. There were still some things early, but the way they finished, we hadn't seen Clemson finish, right? We haven't seen them finish, really all year in regards to a second half, shut them out. It looked extremely good. The defense, again, it's so weird to me, KG, because it's one of those things. I'm not a defensive player, so I can't look at it in the same light where I can watch an offensive play happen and I can tell you pretty close to what should or should not have happened. Defense, I've got no clue. I mean, I know what looks bad. I know when guys look like they're missing assignments or a blown coverage or, things that just look different to a relatively trained eye. But, I mean, I don't know calls. I don't know schemes like those guys do, that defenders and, things of that nature. So even when I watch it, it is relatively like another language. And, you do get frustrated at times because you're just thinking, okay, these body types that are here, what these guys are doing, who they should be. I just expected so much more from them. And they had a great game. They had nearly double-digit tackles for loss. They had the most sacks that we've seen, I believe, in a year or a game so far. And had multiple picks, like right place, right time, and doing their thing. But there was just a couple of plays here and there where, the defensive line wasn't getting any type of push. And they were just kind of sitting. And, I remember it was probably after the second touchdown, seeing Nick Easton on the sideline just going ballistic, like just furious at these guys saying, what's happening? What are y'all doing? And we even heard, from the sideline reporter, kind of questioning, who did you think these guys were? Like, what did you think was going to happen? And, after that, it kind of turned up and things of that nature. But, it's just things like that where it's just always seems to be kind of something. And again, not that it's been detrimental in any shape or form quite yet outside of, that first game. But a unit that feels like they're starting to figure it out maybe a little bit. We'll see. Things will tell because, again, as you mentioned, some of those offenses this week, you got offense that's wide open. You got Pittsburgh. You have Kyron Drone, super mobile quarterback. We saw what they look like against Miami at their peak. Louisville, a really confident offense. And then South Carolina, a great running quarterback, but ultimately not a very good, consistent, good offense. So they've got time to figure it out, but it just feels like that's kind of a unit that is, I don't want to say quite behind, but they are. I thought they were going to be best in the country. They're quite behind where I thought they would be at this point.
I think that's fair. I think that when you look at the numbers, especially when you look at points per game allowed, it's not bad. Like this defense has been a little bit of a bend don't break kind of situation, right?
Right.
And I think the offense has looked so good over the last couple of weeks. Then you look at the defense and maybe it's a little bit of an unfair comparison, but it just feels like maybe this D-line doesn't have the depth that some D
Right.
lines in the past have had, and the firepower, if you will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Peter Woods has been hurt. He's been back for the last couple of games, and he's obviously a difference maker. So we'll see. I think this
He looked
defense,
great.
like you said,
Yeah,
Mac,
he looked great.
a little slower out of the gate, but
Mhm.
maybe they can. I mean, they're still not really giving up many points, except for to Georgia. But we'll see how that looks. Any thoughts on Wake before we head on to our next game?
You know, no. It's a tough, it's an uphill battle.
Turnovers.
It's hard. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard going against a team like
Jamon
that.
Claiborne did what he
where they
could.
are. Yeah, did what he could. And again, Hank had some, fun passes where I was like, whew, that looks good. I saw somebody on Twitter talking about, oh, so he's not vintage Tom Brady all of a sudden. That's good because he was there for a couple of plays, a couple of series where he was slinging it around. But yeah, it's always tough, going against Clemson for sure.
And you don't have a guy like Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
Okay, let's head to our next game here, Mac. This game was a doozy. Number 22 Pitt survives. They're up to 20 in the AP poll, by the way, and beats Cal 17-15. Phew. I mean, I really, when you look at the second half overall, Pitt did not have any business
Right.
winning the game
Yeah.
the way the
Yeah.
second half went. I mean, Cal outgained them 335-277. I think that tells you a lot there. Desmond Reed was the savior. He was the offense. He did everything. And Cal had every chance, and I think in the end, on my underdog picks, by the way, I had Eli Holstein throwing a pick, which he did. He threw two. He threw two bad picks. And specifically in the third quarter, when Pitt's up, I think 17-9, they get a stop. They have a nice punt return. They have the ball in like the 40, maybe even closer than that. And first play, Eli Holstein just throws a bad pick. And it's
Yeah.
just like, what are we doing? And then the game got crazier from there. So, yes, Cal outgained them, but Pitt was in control until some of those bad turnovers.
Right.
In the end, you win. I mean, that's what it is. You're 6-0. Like no
Find a
one
way.
can tell you nothing if you're 6-0, Mac. But that game was just crazy.
It really was. And, kind of big picture, everything you just said there, they did find a way. And, they had been winning on Eli's arm for so long, for 5 straight games and what he was able to do, what he was able to accomplish. I think this was actually great for them. Obviously that they won, but having to find a way to do it and to lean on other things and rely on other things. I think it just makes you a better team. I think it proves to you and maybe makes everyone else around feel like, okay, yeah, we've got a great quarterback that is a monster, but we also have a good team that can find ways to do things if something's not going right that particular day. I think one thing that I'm trying to find when exactly it was, but the crazy touchdown, here it is right here. So Pittsburgh is in their territory. It's 4th and 1, and they freaking go for it. And it ends up being a 72-yard touchdown. That was crazy. That was crazy. And what it basically looked like to me is that, Cal brought pressure and they missed. And then here you go, to the house, Desmond Reed, see you later. And the things that he was able to do there, very, very impressive. That guy's unbelievable. I mean, I think I know it's usually a quarterback award, but he is squarely in position for Offensive Player of the Year, I think. I mean, he is
sure.
Mr. Do It All. However you want to line it up, however you want to get it to him, he's that special a player. The biggest reason that Pittsburgh won this game. And you mentioned the second half there. Pitt has a fumble, an interception, another interception, back to back to back. You're just like,
they don't score in the second half.
They get shut out, and they find a way. They find a way. I thought the defense played the best they'd looked. 6 sacks.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have 6 sacks against Cal? Just going to say that.
I was going to say, give the defense some credit. I know the Cal offensive line has struggled, but Jimmy Scott, number 44 in your programs for Pitt, he was really good in the second half. And he had 3 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. But yeah, I know. Right. I get most people do that to Cal. It was just, to not score in the second half and win.
Right.
Wild. Just a
Pretty
wild
crazy.
game. And
it is.
We
and
need
it
to
goes to
mention
show
too, Cal didn't have Jay Knott. That's obviously, if they do, and you play like this, if you're Pitt, you probably lose the game. Honestly,
right.
They have Jay Knott.
100%. So we'll see. Interesting, kind of to look at both. Cal 3 in a row, 0-3 in conference play. But just they feel like a good team, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's really weird. And I think honestly, it does. as we've seen, like the ACC's had the most teams ranked, right? And how do you look at that? EJ was kind of like, seems like inconsistency to me. Taylor was like super gun ho. It shows depth. It shows this and that. I'm a little bit in between, because you do want, staying power, and you do want teams to be able to do that. But to have the most ranked and you're playing conference game, you've got to beat each other. Like, it's just a part of it. It's just what has to happen. So I do think it's showing a little bit of respect, because obviously people are voting for that. It's showing a little bit of attention, and I do think that it's showing the depth and the quality of this league, and that just goes to show an 0-3 team I still think is good. Like, they should have beat, Florida State. They should have beat Miami, and if they were able to take advantage of their second half, they should have beat Pitt. Now, I'm probably not feeling as confident as those other two with this one, because Pitt relatively had control for the entire game. They did have control for the entire game, and Cal just wasn't able to do enough. But Cal's still a really good team, and excited to see where Pitt can go from here. They get a much-needed little breather, and then they have Syracuse, which is going to be a great game. Cannot wait to see that.
I think it is very good for Pitt that they have a bye coming off that game, where they need to just kind of get right in all shapes of the word there. And Cal, just brutal losses. Lost by 5 to FSU, 1 to Miami, and then 2 to Pitt. I still think this is a bowl team. They've got to find 3 wins in their next 6. NC State, Oregon State, Wake, Syracuse, Stanford, SMU. You think they beat Stanford, Wake, and Oregon State for sure. Probably NC State. So I still think they can very much make a bowl game, and I think they will. This team's
better. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all for them to go 3 straight here. I mean, with NC State, Oregon State, and at Wake Forest. And then who knows with Syracuse. We'll find it. We'll talk about them in a second. But it feels like, Syracuse, this is about the time that they start having the wheels fall off. Didn't happen in Raleigh, but this is the time where we're really going to be paying attention to Cuse and who and what they're going to be the rest of the way.
Okay, let's get to Cuse, because that's a great transition. People are going to say, Kelly, it's just NC State. I know NC State's had a tough year. But I was impressed with this win, because I think this is one of those games, and especially the UNLV game, that old Syracuse loses. You start, maybe they don't lose to Stanford early, but then they lose these games. You start well, and then you struggle in October, especially on the road. Back-to-back road wins for Syracuse, and they got off to a slow start in Raleigh, but they still were able to come back and control the game really after the first quarter. Other weapons emerging for Syracuse. I like to see that. Jackson Meeks was incredible. 11 catches for 116 yards. Syracuse forced turnovers. The sack fumble that they were able to get NC State on, and just NC State couldn't run it. I mean, you've heard us say that a million times. But I thought this was a good step forward program win for Syracuse.
Right.
This is a game, especially coming off a ranked win, that they go lose in past years.
Right.
I thought this was big for Syracuse in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And just, it's their first game outside. It's their first game on grass.
Oh,
crazy. How crazy is that? They've been in a
that
dome.
Is crazy.
And then they were in an NFL dome as well out in Vegas. And it was a little chilly, but those guys are up north. They're fine with it. I'm sure they practice in colder to this point. But yeah, we were just interested. And, on the other kind of side of that, I was interested. And I mean, I've said this, I think, multiple times. Are NC State fans going to show up? The answer was, yeah, they did. And the students did too. They're on fall break. They were loud. They caused false starts. They caused errant timeouts that Syracuse had to take. They were awesome. That environment was sick. And I've said this so many different times, but that was one of the hardest places I had to play. So give those guys their credit. Wolfpack Nation really did their part. Just couldn't finish it on the field. So let's start with Syracuse, though, in the play. Seeing Kyle McCord in person was awesome. I mean, that dude is so good at throwing the football, pushing it downfield, understanding of the offense. Again, and this is a guy that just got there. But it just feels like his. It just feels like it's his world, and everybody's kind of figuring it out. You had a bunch of players, catching the football. I think this was the 4th different receiver for a game that had over 10 catches. I mean, that's just crazy. Like, usually there's a go-to guy, not 4 different guys throughout different games that have multiple or double-digit kind of catches there. So that was fun to see. Getting all your weapons involved differently. Again, like I said, pushing the ball downfield, had completions of 28 yards, 27, 24. Like nothing outrageous, but just really good, catch, step, throw type of things. And per usual, LaQuint Allen is just a dog. I mean, that guy, super fun to watch. High motor, does whatever he's asked, is very versatile in what he can do for you. And those guys are
This
believing.
TD
I mean, they
run,
really are. Yeah.
another ridiculous TD run from LaQuint Allen where he had no
Yeah.
business getting the ball in,
Right.
and he did. And he doesn't seem, you were there in person, and I could look up his height and weight and everything, but he just doesn't look like Phil Maffa for reference.
No.
But
He's
he
a little,
runs over guys
yeah.
like Phil Maffa.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing.
It says he's 6'1". I don't know if that's true. Or excuse me, 6 foot. I don't know if he's 6 foot, 200 pounds, but he runs like it. He runs super hard. Yeah. He's a beast. He's a beast. It was fun to see. And again, those guys are just believing. Coach Fran Brown has done an unbelievable job.
Yeah,
Spoke to him pregame, spoke to him postgame. He's awesome. He really is. And I can see why, some of these recruits, some of these transfers would, no question, want to go there. He's got it laid out. Looking on the NC State side, CJ Bailey balled.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see this stat line, and I don't know, it was weird because it was a little bit sporadic, maybe. Like he was super accurate. He's 71, percent accurate, but I did not think that he had 330 yards passing.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at this, I was like, whoa. Because there was a couple of 70-yard completions. There was 2 of those. Guys took it to the house. And he just made really good decisions too. That guy's going to be a superstar. If he continues to just stay here, grow, does his thing, put on a little more weight, he's going to be freaky. I can't wait to see the future and what he's going to be able to turn into.
And he is just a true freshman. You talk about his decision making. Yeah, no, he's a baby. He played really well. I thought the pick was a bit costly. And then the sack fumble, which I don't know if that's a decision, obviously you can escape, you can step up in the pocket, whatever. So those 2 turnovers did hurt them for sure. And Kyle McCord did not turn the ball over, which is big for him. But again, like how much of this we're going to put on a true freshman quarterback, right? And it just feels like your defense in general for NC State, they've just taken a really big step back. And we knew that. We knew there was going to be some sort of step back. But the defense can't help you as much as perhaps we all thought, or at least as much as NC State's defenses have helped them over the past couple of years. So that's a big issue. And they still can't run it, Mac. They still can't run it. It's brutal.
That's just who they are. We don't even need to really bring that up. It stinks. It doesn't make any sense at all why they can't. But they just don't have it. Haven't had it in 5 years. But, going back to the defense, they had – a bunch of tackles for loss. They had some chaotic plays that they were able to force, but you're right. It just, game on the line, couldn't stop anybody, couldn't make it happen. Kyle goes for 350. They hadn't allowed over a 300-yard passer all season. He shatters that. And again, I know they had injuries. Caden Fordham out for the year. Brutal. It just stinks. And it feels like, honestly, KG, it just feels like they have everything at NC State. Sounds like the NIL is good. They went out and got a bunch of players. The facilities are awesome. The stadium is great. You've got these fans, and they just can't get over the hump. They just can't win and do it on the field in the big games. I mean, I get some, and I get, here and there, and 8 wins, 9 wins, awesome. But, the big ones, the important ones, it's just tough, and it's weird. It's kind of strange.
Before we get to our speed round, can I just ask you if NC State's going to make a bowl? They're 3-4.
You want to play a little win game?
Yeah, win game. So they're at Cal this week.
Nope. Loss.
I think that's probably a loss. So let's say you're 3-5.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Stanford at home.
Win.
Stanford looked terrible. I'm going to say win.
Yeah,
Stanford has to travel out to you. All right, so you are 4-5. Duke at home. Let's give it to them. At
home, I'll say win.
5-5. Then you're at Georgia Tech, at UNC. If UNC is completely given up by then, maybe. I don't think you win at Georgia Tech, but
no.
It might come
So
down
you're
to
telling me
winning
it's going to come down to
UNC.
at North Carolina to go bowling.
It probably will,
Let's see
because
what
that's
North
just
Carolina
so
does.
fitting.
Let's see where they'll be. Let's see. They've got
Oh,
3.
I've got
They
questions
play
about
at
them.
Virginia, loss. At Florida State, loss. Versus Wake, win. At BC, maybe a win. That game literally could decide
Yeah,
which team goes to the postseason. That would be
for sure.
awesome. It would be so
For
lit.
sure.
I hope
It's
that happens.
yeah, that's very, very possible. So we'll get there eventually, and we're going to talk about the rest of these games. But first, Mac, let's talk about our great friends at Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Use our code GMPOD to sign up and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Mac and I both fell for something this week. So I went 2 out of 3. Eli Holstein threw a pick, which I had on my board. Desmond Reed scored a bajillion touchdowns, had that one. And then I thought I clicked LaQuint Allen higher than a touchdown. But either I messed up or something, but I clicked LaQuint Allen lower than a touchdown. And of course he scored a touchdown. So my PSA is double check your work. You know, we've been taught that from a very young age, Mac. And I didn't know we'd apply it to fantasy sports, but here we are. Double check your work. Make sure what you're clicking is the right thing.
That's true.
On me.
It's very true.
I still won some money, but not what it could have been.
That's right. I just want to say this. I went 14 versus 17.
That's really good.
That's a lot. I just want to show y'all this.
All the green.
See all this green? See all this green here?
Green.
Red. There's a lot of green. A lot of green. One red. A lot of green. There's one red. I am sick. I'm physically sick right now because
you gotta pick the right ones.
I have to tell on myself. For the 8, I had an 8 picker. Big one. Big one. A lot of money. And I haven't told anybody this. If they hear this, great. If not, I don't care. And our huddle crew, we all were going for the same thing because they were with me. I let them know, hey, I need 4 more yards from Kyle McCord. That's all I need. And then bam, he had an 8-yard route. We all exploded. We freaked out. I just won $1 billion. Everyone's excited. Well, come to find out, because I wasn't looking like, I didn't dial them in and look. I just knew. I knew what I needed. I had it in my brain. I knew. And so I'm looking at it and it's blue. It stays blue even after he did it. And so I'm like, why is that not changing to green? And I don't think about it. We're about to go on TV. But we all exploded. Everybody celebrated. I'm rich. I'm buying dinner for everybody, all these things. I then get home and evaluate the day. And unfortunately, I had chosen for the 8-leg picks Kyle McCord rushing touchdown, which did not happen. Which didn't happen. And in the other one, that I also did what you did and picked for some reason lower, that's where the Kyle McCord yards were. So
just the
basically
unforced errors.
What I'm telling you, KG, and there was one more that I missed. There was one more. So I had 3 different legs. I had another leg that I missed. A receiver went higher by 1 yard. And I said he was going to go low. So essentially, I should have won
$1 billion.
$2,500. And instead, which is good, it's better than 0, I won $42.
Okay. Hey, 42 is pretty good.
Well, like KG said, it's the easiest place to play ever. Use our code. Check it out. GM Pod. We'll get you up to $1,000. And who knows? You know, just make sure when I post these things, guys, be like, hey, EMAC, did you see this? Like, did you do that on purpose? And I'll be like, oh, thank you for correcting me. I didn't.
Yeah, we needed that for each other as well.
Anyway, so
we learned a lot.
Super smart. I felt super smart until I didn't.
14 out of 17 is really good. I'll say that.
It's not good
it feels
enough,
like
though.
you know something about ACC football. Use our code, GMPOD. Help us out. That'd be great. All right, Max, speed round. Let's run through these. I'm going to start with this game because I want to say something to my fellow Wahoo fans. And actually, Mac, I'm low-key serious about this. Okay, Louisville beats Virginia 24-20. Louisville survives. They go on that great game-winning drive. They didn't play their best, but they win. And that's big for Louisville as they try to get back into the AP poll and et cetera. For Virginia, I really just have 2 main thoughts. Love my Who's. the two absolutely terrible punts. Without those punts, you probably win. It is brutal to have a game. It didn't come down to the punter, but that's terrible. And then here's my other thing, Mac. When Louisville's going on that game-winning drive, impressive drive, this is a 4-1 Virginia team. Do you know what they could have used, Mac?
Yeah.
Crowd noise.
For sure.
Someone to support them. This is a 4-1 Virginia team. Your rivals in Blacksburg can't say they're 4-1. And there's nobody there. And even if it was decently full, I guess, at the beginning of the game, everyone left. Everyone was gone at halftime. And there's just no one there to help this team. Like, if this team actually had a crowd, I'm not saying it, maybe Louisville probably still scores, but it's college football. Like, things happen. So that really made me kind of sad. And I'm being serious. I'm being serious because Tony Elliott's done a great job and really turned this program around. All right, that's my Tuesday.
We were there week 3 for a night game, a old ACC rivalry versus Maryland, and it was under 50% full. It was sad. It really was sad. Like, come on, guys. And
I don't know what the answer is.
Show the frick up. Show up.
Well, no, I don't know how you get more people there. I mean, you're 4-1.
No, I'm saying they need to show up.
You're 4-1.
Just go. Just go to the game. Because I look back at some old footage like the 90s and whenever else. And
Virginia was really good.
Rocking. And it's not that big. It's not big at all. Like, I think it's 30,000 people, something of that nature.
But it can get loud if you have 30,000 people there.
You need their help. A couple of things on this game I also want to hit. Number one, great job by Louisville finding a way.
Yeah.
Getting out of that losing streak, bouncing back against a really good team on the road. Great job. Coach Elliott, close your ears, but take the points.
Yeah.
18-play drive, 72 yards to end in downs. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I always want to take the points. Always. And I thought that was a big thing of the game. And imagine if you do take the points there, your game-winning drive, all you need is a field goal. And again, that's a lot of what if, woulda, coulda, shoulda, whatever. I also thought the game-winning touchdown, just a blown assignment in the back end, like a guy running scot-free, was pretty disappointing there. And then last thing I will say, when Virginia was going for it, the last play that they threw, clearly pass interference. I thought that was insane that they didn't. There was a no call there. I mean, the guy's getting tackled before the ball's even close to him. What is he supposed to do? So it was a weird game. Don't ever let it come down to that. You want to control what you can. Tough break. Great job by Louisville. As I mentioned, bouncing back, and they have a massive game coming up this weekend. So that'll be fun to see. So does Virginia. So anyway, Georgia Tech, North Carolina went about what I thought. I didn't think that Carolina maybe would score that much. But I thought Georgia Tech was going to run the ball at will. Yeah, I thought that they were going to just pound those guys, and they did. I mean, 371 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and averaged like 8 yards a carry. That was insane. And then the 68-yard walk-off touchdown by Jamal Haynes. Nuts. It's nuts. So fun to watch from that aspect. Give Carolina credit. I mean, they are fighting, and the offense has shown something. But that defense is just bad, and they've been bad. It's like North Carolina State can never run the ball, ever. No matter what they have, no matter how good their team is, they can't do it. North Carolina, no matter if they have the number 1 overall pick in the draft, a great quarterback, whatever, they can't play defense. It's so weird how these teams get locked into this is who they are, and they can't make things happen. So it's unfortunate. I hate it, but the inconsistencies are what they are. And a big shout out to Georgia Tech getting the dub.
Specifically those two teams. It feels like they're locked into those two identities. I think Georgia Tech, tons of credit for being able to win that game. That walk-off touchdown was insane. I still have some question marks about your defense, but in the end, your offense is electrifying. And I feel like I can't say anything to you, Georgia Tech. You're 5-2. What am I going to say to you? With the schedule that you've already played and the schedule coming up, you're 5-2. Nothing wrong with that at all. Probably should have won that Syracuse game, and then you'd be, 6-1. and they have Notre Dame this week. So it's going to get even more interesting hosting Notre Dame. And when you look at the rest of their schedule, Notre Dame, at Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State, at Georgia, you feel good that they beat NC State and that would get them bowling. But it just feels like, Mac, between Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia, I'm going to call my shot here. Georgia Tech beats one of them. I don't know who, and maybe it's not even bold, but Georgia Tech beats one of those teams. They have Notre Dame and Miami at home. They're probably not going to win at Georgia, respectfully, even though Georgia does not look good. But if Kirby Smart throws hands and pushes Haynes King, I'm going to be mad about that. But between Notre Dame and Miami, I feel like they get one of those. I'm going to put it out there, Mac, into the universe.
We'll see. Hopefully not. Anyway, we'll see.
I know. Also, you didn't want to hear that they might beat Miami, but they did beat them last year.
I just rolled over. Pay attention to Haynes King. He went down. Not sure what. Yeah. Of course, in this world of never having to report anything, we don't know. We don't know how he's hurt and everything of that nature. So hope he's okay and he'll be back soon. And then our final game, poor sweet Stanford. Poor Stanford.
They looked so bad.
Went exactly as I thought. Went exactly as I thought it would. 42-point loss. Your reward is the huddle's coming this weekend. Can't wait. Can't wait to be there. Looks beautiful. Looks really beautiful. And SMU's coming to town. So buckle up.
You'll have SMU.
Here we go.
You'll have SMU. Notre Dame looks pretty good, and it just goes to show you always want to lose early, as Clemson did, even though Clemson lost to Georgia and Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. But, same difference. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're going to put Notre Dame in the playoff.
Yeah.
Having lost to Northern Illinois. Unless Georgia Tech can beat them. Like I said, they will.
Georgia Tech's going to put the nail in the coffin.
Let's go.
I like that.
Let's go. That's right.
Anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in. Short week. We're back to ACC playing on, I think, Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Ooh. So we're just going to fill it up. We'll have a great guest for you on Wednesday. And then, of course, Friday, as we always do, preview the next weekend, give you picks, give you what you think. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll run the table on these things. Who knows? And we're going to make the right pick. We're going to read, check our work, and do a really good job there.
It's really just the key is reading,
Yeah.
We just got to read.
It can be hard sometimes. I get it. I totally do. Big shout out to Underdog. Thank you to Ingles, everything they do for our show and are able to help us do the things that we need to and need your guys' help. We need you to go over to YouTube, subscribe, jump in the comments. Tell us what you thought about this weekend. Tell it. We just talked a long time. These episodes have been fun, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Get in here, let us know, and of course the OGs over on SiriusXM and Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe there as well. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.